let's get into this. I'm trying to see what the best thing to go to is. So Richard Hart, we have to talk about this tweet the other day. So it's been a long story about Richard Hart and his relationship with centralized exchanges, what he thinks, whether they are good for products he has commissioned or good in general. We had the big initiative with MEXC, which is apparently a top 10 crypto exchange worldwide, that great guys like Crypto Coffee, I honestly forget who else. I know he was spearheading it anyway. We're kind of rallying together to try to get a Pulse listing on there and raise the money to do it. And I believe they did. I kind of forget where that last was. But I found this really intriguing, and I sent you his tweet if you wanted to bring it up in a moment here, Ewok. But so he tweeted the other day, surprisingly. Now, he didn't say this directly, so I'm not going to pretend that he did. But tweeting about Kraken and Binance, which this is true, just on May the 20th, both of them conveniently asked for people, anybody in the public, you, if you want to go on there on that day to request token listings. So whatever it is you would like to be on their listing to buy. Kraken, which is an exchange I am a fan of, and is a lot less, I don't know what word I want to use. I'm not going to say one word that I think may get us demonetized, but I think they're not as stringent and delusional, I will say, as Binance. Binance also has been co-opted now. So, I mean, we know CZ is gone, so now it's kind of like a government boy in there or something. So, right. Kraken, the last I knew, still has, what's his name? Jesse, I think it is, somebody in charge, and he's a cool dude. But anyway, yes. So we'll get into this more specifically, but Kraken basically is much more lax on what they're looking like. Hey, if you want it, we want to sell it to you and make money too. So tell us about it. Binance was far more like, well, these, they don't want where there's like a way smaller circulating supply than what the actual amount is, and they're turned off by stuff like that. Not only that, but their form to fill it out, which is way more meticulous than Kraken. So we'll get to that part in a moment. Looking at his actual tweet, which I'll bring up too so I can actually read it here, is Kraken and Binance, he says, both posted today that they want to list more coins, and it seems they want you to fill out the form, and he gives links to both. With RH, you always have to read between the lines, so it's like, hey, what tokens do you think he's talking about that you may want to fill out? So right. I guess what I find confusing, interesting, I don't know about this, is how he went out of his way, actually, to, I don't want to say a tirade, but he made a pretty big tweet shitting entirely on exchange listings. 30, 60 days ago when the MEXC stuff was at its height, a lot of people were really putting in a good effort to do it. And RH, he didn't directly say anything about MEXC or anybody trying to, those efforts, but he threw cold water entirely on exchanges and just said that they were horrible. And now we see this. So I don't know. Am I reading it into it too much? Because it seems pretty obvious that he's saying, if you want to try to get Pulse listed, then do it. So
I think the big thing with MEXC is most Americans couldn't use it anyway. Now I realize that, there's a lot of people from all over the globe that do invest in crypto, but I think he wanted it to be as inclusive as possible. That's how I read between the lines. And if you're going to spend that kind of money to get it listed, let's do it and cover kind of everybody and not have to have multiple ones of these. Now, eventually, yeah, that would be great. But, Kraken is pretty much available in, as far as I know, all over the place. Yeah. Binance has, they have the Binance US, and then they have their Binance, the rest of the global platform that they have. But again, I think Binance is a lot more strict on what they'll be willing to accept. Again, this isn't just to fill out a form and then they'll decide and say, well, we got a bunch of votes for PulseChain, let's just list it.
Right.
I do believe there is still a fee. There's a listing fee. You have to provide liquidity or give them liquidity to provide anyway. But my question, and I think I mentioned it on Rags to Riches made a post the other day and was kind of pushing this as well. And I said, well, don't you think we kind of need a better effort so that people are filling out these forms the same way? Because when you actually look at it, let's actually click on the link here. We'll just go to the
Don't do the
Kraken.
Binance. Yeah, I was going to say the Binance one is way too convoluted and
Right.
way too much unnecessary information. And as you
So,
pulled it up, I do just want to say, because I said about the MEXC thing and not knowing where that was at a moment ago, I do
right.
see Crypto Coffee as one of the top replies on RH's tweet, and he said MEXC coming soon. So that's still happening. And I know they pretty much raised all the money for it. So it looks like that's still going on.
Right. And that was kind of done by the PulseChain Foundation, one of the two PulseChain foundations. I know there's still a little animosity from that out there between the two of them, but whatever. As long as they're doing stuff to promote the blockchain, I don't think it really matters. But either way, so you've got the issuer, you got your name, email, Telegram, title, company. Well, a lot of this stuff there is no company. Address of company and corporation. Well, there isn't one of those either.
Right.
Executive and non-executive beneficial owners. Well, who would that be? Again, there's a lot of, and these are required. The ones that are starred are required fields that have to be filled out. You got your asset name, ticker, fine, network, fine, token standard, okay, all that good, all that stuff is fine. You go the whole way down. I think, yeah, all of this
It
stuff
has
is
some
pretty
non-applicable stuff at the bottom. Sorry.
right. There is like the e-money, but you can pick no for that. It's not e-money or a digital representative fiat, so it's not like a stable coin or anything like that. So these are pretty self-explanatory. However, the upper part, I think there could be a lot of question, and it may not look very good if a bunch of people are filling it out differently for the same token and be like, well, these guys are all over the place, with their answers. I don't know how much that gets judged. You know what I mean? But again, I think we wanted to kind of be on the same page when we're all filling this stuff out.
Well, I think that is a nice thought, but I think it's going to be very hard. I mean, with this fervent community and stuff, I don't think that it's going to be so easy to get people like to be submitting a uniform thing. I mean, like what I basically did for the company and all that stuff was just put like NA. I'm like, this isn't applicable to this. There is no
Fair enough.
company. It's not. So I mean, I don't know what people. To me, it would be worse if you tried to put anything other than just something like that, because it's like, to me, it's like, okay, it's Pulse chain. It's a layer one. What is the function of the Pulse token? It is the gas token on the Pulse blockchain. Like those are the pertinent things on that form that need to be filled out. That people are very familiar with all that lingo already in crypto. So I think as long as you kind of go about it that way, and then the token standard, I put like PRC20 whenever it asked about that, because it has like a drop down of ERCs and all that stuff. So
Right.
I think if you get that general stuff, I think you're pretty much fine. I just
Yeah.
would be careful about trying to put in something weird or outside of that. But
Right.
um,
Either way,
but
it's a good effort, I think. And I think I it can't hurt, right? I mean, eventually we're going to need on ramps. We're going to need easier ways to get people over here. And if they can buy it directly on a centralized exchange, all the better. That's one of the things that we've always said is when it's hard to buy, that's opportunity.
right.
Hex was the same way. You couldn't get it on exchanges, and it still did a 10,000x. You know what I mean? So those are opportunities. Obviously that 10,000x is looking like it's way, way on the horizon now. But again, it leads to more opportunity, I think, when these things are difficult. But again, we want it kind of, we've always been under the impression where we kind of want it now.
Right.
So one of the only ways to do that is to get it out there, to get it listed on exchanges, to get it once it's listed on an exchange like Kraken. Maybe CoinMarketCap looks at it and ranks it properly, and I think it's one of the reasons. It's one of the stipulations that they have, that we don't meet that criteria, and it's one of the reasons why they claim that it isn't. But if you can meet all that criteria and then they still don't, well, then then we have a bigger issue.
Yeah.
So.
I think a Kraken listing. Look, and I know you and I were talking about like which token did you fill one out for? I mean, I had just done. I did Pulse right away. I mean, to me, the big thing would be to get Pulse listed on an exchange like that, and I am in favor of it. I just put that up a minute ago. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
I didn't know if you saw it or not. But I think getting Pulse up there is huge. Now, my thing is, and I dealt with this last cycle with Phantom when I was buying that, which is now being rebranded to Sonic or something. I don't know what's happening there.
Okay.
But Kraken was cool enough to have native Phantom on their platform. So like you could buy Phantom, you could send it to a Phantom wallet, and it would go on the Phantom blockchain. Everybody else had like wrapped Phantom. Everybody else had like the Phantom ERC20 copy. So what would be interesting to me, is if Pulse got listed, if it was native Pulse, so they could send it, because that's a big thing. You go to Coinbase. I was listening to somebody talk about this the other day. If you send like USDC on Coinbase or like something on Coinbase, you've got Ethereum as an option, Arbitron or Arbitrum One, whatever else you guys know, Solana, whatever, all these different blockchains. And if you buy Pulse on there, I mean, I guess having to buy wrapped Pulse and then send it and still bridge it is something, like at least that's available on the exchange. But it would be really nice if it was native Pulse that they could send straight to a Pulse wallet, because that's what you want. You want people coming over with a gas token like ready to go, and it'd be lovely to have a Pulse X or a Hex or an Ink listing too. But if we're choosing, I mean, for me, Pulse is the one that I would want to be listed. So what do you make of that idea? Though?
Yeah, no, absolutely. If it's native, sure. Now the good thing about wrapped Pulse is when you send it over the bridge, it obviously will unwrap it for you and it becomes unwrapped. However, it's an extra fee that you shouldn't have to spend with the Ethereum fee to send it over. So it would be a huge cost savings for users knowing how cheap it is. Now, I've heard about people when they list things, obviously they have to also keep an updated node under their control as well. So for every coin that they have on its own blockchain, they have to run a node for it essentially in their database itself. So they have to keep a record of it too, and anything new that they add is going to take work for them to keep it updated, get it to sync, all that stuff. So it does take time, and some, when upgrades happen, they have to do whatever they have to do as well. So it's not just a matter of just let's launch it. They have to get the node on their side as well and do that type of thing, especially for a different blockchain.